everyone. I think we're just going to get started. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties before, but thank you for joining us today. My name is Andy, and I will be your moderator. Today, we will be reading from Billy Festerazzi's Freedom Man, and we're going to do things a little bit differently from the last workshop. I've decided to try out a pre-recording of the screenplay so that everyone can access it and we can avoid technical difficulties, which I will provide after I go over the guidelines quickly. Just a heads up, today's session will be recorded and published to other AFL platforms. So everyone, please keep your camera and audio off during the stream. So feel free to use the emoji reaction function on Zoom, and you're also welcome to use the chat if you want to make any immediate comments. Please respect these guidelines. If you end up disrupting the session in any way, I'm going to have to remove you from the call. I'm going to have a filler card streamed on the Zoom while we're watching the reading. It will show the link and everything, but I will also send it in the chat here for easier access. I will also provide some questions in the chat that you can think about while you listen onto this reading. Yeah, I wanted to do a live stream of the pre-recording, but my computer's really old, so it's not letting me use the OBS software to live stream anything, but I'll see if I can figure that out for the next event. But for now, we already have a pre-recorded video uploaded to YouTube, but I'm just gonna send out the link for everyone to watch. After the reading is over, I will begin the live workshop session here on Zoom, where you can give feedback and ask questions about the piece. Feel free to turn on your cameras and audio during this portion of the workshop. Before we start, Billy, do you have anything you want to mention about your work?
Hello.
Hello.
Cool. Right, I'm just gonna start the video. Cool. Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for actually turning up. I think it says a lot that everyone's willing to help inspire and write it out like myself. God knows that I probably need the help because I'd like to firstly mention how why I actually contacted this workshop in the first place. Um, I started writing this in November 2021. And then I sort of like finished the what I thought was the final draft in sort of about March 2022. But as it turns out, that definitely wasn't the final draft. So I sort of arrogantly sent this to a lot of festivals, and in some of these sort of smaller festivals, it did very, very well. However, in the sort of most prestigious festivals, it was sort of getting only finalist positions and sort of like third place. So what I did is I actually purchased a few script reviews, and um, in terms of the plot, storyline, and concept, it would get about 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. However, in terms of dialogue and character, it would be probably about 6. So clearly there is something wrong with the script, and I have tried to basically look at it and nothing's actually going in. So I thought I'd basically contact a workshop and I'd rather have it acted out loud than actually be able to listen to it to see if I could try and figure out what is wrong. So during this workshop, I'll turn my camera off and I'll be making notes. I'd probably like to share what I find as well, and I have quite a few questions I'd like to ask.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Billy. I'm gonna now send the link in the chat. Can everyone see it? No, I'm also going to share the screen here, and yeah, feel free to access it and we'll start, and I'm gonna live stream it on my end. Um, yeah. So, so thank you for joining us today. Today we will be reading from Billy Festerazzi's Freedom Man. Billy graduated from the University of Chichester after studying on the acting for film 3-year degree course, and acting and writing has been influential to him. They have helped him grow as an individual and have aided him in freeing his mind by allowing him to express emotion in performance as well as on paper. And yeah, I guess you guys can start whenever you feel ready.
Interior, Biles' house, kitchen, evening. Val and Jen sit at the kitchen table at Val's house. Val's kitchen is old and grimy, but not covered in soot. Jen continues to cough up blood. Jen inspects Val's arms and face. The inflammation has spread.
Your skin. I've seen that happen before, but I don't know what it is.
It is pellagra. It's caused by a lack of vitamins.
How do you know that?
Val
You cannot stay in that house. You cannot stay in that burnt house. It's making you ill.
Where do you suggest I stay?
I'm sorry.
Jen continues to cough.
Coughing up blood, it is a sign of cancer.
I know. It runs in my family, but the suit is probably the main cause.
You need to see a doctor, my friend.
There are no doctors in this village. The only doctors in the whole of North Fichian live in the capital. And we're not privileged enough to live in the capital.
I'm not suggesting you go to the capital.
Jen stays silent.
It's all a lie.
Jen
I used to be an officer of the border control as well. I saw the men and women of South Fichian. They're well-dressed and well-fed.
Yes, I know.
We are starving, Jen. We're always hungry. I haven't eaten in 3 days.
Please stop talking about it. You're making it worse.
Val stops talking. There is a silence.
What do you suggest we do?
I haven't suggested anything. I don't want to suggest anything.
We can't stay here forever, Jen. This is the worst I've seen the nation. And I fear it is only going to get worse. I spent many years as an officer at the border, but I was too cowardly to escape. This is my biggest regret.
Jen stays silent.
Those reconciliation centers, they are not places of love like they suggest. They are places of torture, plague, and death.
Jen continues to stay silent.
I need to show you something, Jen. Follow me.
Val leaves the kitchen table. Jen hesitantly follows. They both walk into the living room of Val's house. Interior, living room, evening. The living room is also old and grimy. A portrait of President Zam Vin takes up a majority of the wall. Underneath the portrait is a table full of papers.
Wait here.
Val begins searching through a cupboard beneath an old TV. Jen takes notice of a small notepad with only a few pieces of paper left and a pen. He takes both items and places it into his pocket without Val noticing. Val has finished searching. He clutches a set of films.
These films from the South, but one.
Val presents a film.
One is a documentary about the history of the South. It is rich and the people are free. A man can eat as much food as he wants. There are no rations. He can even order food to their home by clicking a button.
Jen shakes his head with disbelief.
There are also many more nations. There are at least 250 countries, maybe even more.
No, I do not believe that.
It is true. Tomorrow you must watch it with me.
I will not watch that film, Val.
But why?
Because it's all lies.
Val stares at Jen.
Stop it, Jen. Stop it, Jen. You have seen the men and women from the South.
I have not seen anything.
Jin closes his eyes in stress. He puts his hand on his ears.
Jin, you have to open your eyes. I know you have to, but you need to open your ears.
Jin removes his hands from his ears.
We both know that we need to escape and start anew in the South.
Jin thinks carefully. He looks at the portrait of his president.
No, I'm no longer a traitor who breaks national curfew. I'm a proud citizen of North Faichin. I'm loyal to my dear leader, President Xuan Vin.
Al looks at Jin with disgust.
Get out.
Interior, Jin's house, hallway, evening. Jin walks into the hallway of his house dressed in his officer uniform. Ayaka looks excited to see him. She wraps her arms around him.
Our dear leader has sent us food.
Jin looks at Ayaka with surprise.
Really?
Yes, come into the kitchen. I will show you.
Ayaka grabs Jin's hand and escorts him to the kitchen. Interior, kitchen, evening. The teddy bear is placed on a seat at the kitchen table. There is a plastic box containing a small amount of food items.
I didn't want to open it. I wanted to surprise you. You may open it.
Jin opens the box. Ayaka watches with excitement. He opens the box. The stench is foul. It causes him to vomit. Ayaka holds her nose to cover the stench.
What food is in there?
Ayaka attempts to open the box.
Don't. It's no good.
Well, there must be something in there.
Ayaka takes the food item out of the box. It is a rotten fish head. Ayaka begins to gag, but keeps her composure.
See? This looks good enough to eat.
Put that down now.
What?
Put it down. Throw it away. It will make both of us sick. Do you not understand that?
Ayaka begins to cry. Jin appears sympathetic.
My love.
Ayaka gains her composure.
Yes, you're right. We cannot eat this.
Ayaka throws the rotten fish head into the bin.
We'll see what else is in there.
Ayaka delves deeper into the box. She finds a small loaf of moldy bread, presented it to Jin.
What about this?
No, my love. It's moldy.
Ayaka sighs.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Ayaka throws the moldy loaf of bread into the bin. Ayaka continues to search the box. She finds a suspicious transparent box of meat, which is severely rotten. Ayaka and Jin look at it with disgust. She throws it into the bin without hesitation. She continues to search the box. She finds a small, transparent bag of white rice.
What about this, my love?
Jin looks at the see-through bag of rice.
Wow, that looks safe.
Ayaka looks at Jin adoringly.
Our dear leader has sent us food.
Yes, he has, my love.
Ayaka and Jin embrace.
I'll clean this up.
Jin gestures toward the vomit.
Yes, my love. And please take the bin out. It smells.
Ayaka is excited. She jumps with joy and immediately grabs the bag of rice and places it onto the kitchen counter. She searches the cupboard for a saucepan as Jin begins to clean up the vomit with the dustpan.
We cannot have all of the rice. We need to make it last for 2 weeks.
Yes, of course, my love.
Ayaka smiles at Jin. Interior, Jin's house. Kitchen, evening. Ayaka and Jin eat the cooked white rice at the kitchen table. The teddy bear also sits in a chair. The see-through bag of rice is still on the kitchen counter.
How was work?
Jin stops eating his white rice. He looks surprised.
All these years I've worked for the Border Patrol, and you have never once asked me how my shift was. Why?
You have to face your enemy, the men who disgrace our beloved nation. I never wanted to ask because I thought it upset you.
It doesn't upset me.
Why?
Jin thinks, but he does not answer.
My love?
I've grown numb, Ayaka.
Oh. But, my love, you cannot grow numb. You must fear your enemy, for they are guilty of insulting our beloved nation and leader.
Jin does not answer. He continues to eat his rice.
My love, I lost my job for you.
Jin stops eating. He looks at Ayaka with annoyance.
You know it's true. The authorities said that if I were to leave you, I could keep my job as a teacher. They said that if I stayed married to you, I would therefore be considered a traitor who is not fit to raise our nation's children. I stayed married for you because I love you.
I love you too.
So please, my love, you cannot grow numb to your enemy. You must realize they are vermin and you must fight them if you must.
Yes. I will stay strong for my beloved nation.
Thank you, my love.
Ayaka begins to spoon feed the teddy bear with the cooked rice, causing Jin to look guilty. Interior, Jin's house, living room, evening. Jin walks into the living room of his house, where Ayaka carries the teddy bear. She stares at the portrait of President Zan Ven with love.
I love.
Isn't he beautiful?
Jin looks at the portrait of the president.
We're so lucky to have him as our dear leader. Aren't we, Emmy?
Ayaka turns to the teddy bear. She kisses the teddy bear on the forehead.
We need to go. We need to see a doctor.
Ayaka turns to face Jin.
We cannot go to the capital. We're too weak. We both are.
I'm not suggesting we go to the capital.
But that is where the only doctors are.
No, there's somewhere else we can go.
Where?
Jin hesitates.
To the south.
Why would we go to the south?
Because it's the only way.
No, it's not. They do not have doctors. They have nothing. And even if those southern bastards did have freedom, why would we go to the south? They are traitors. And they would make us traitors to step foot on their soil.
My love, I need to tell you something.
What?
I've seen the men from the south. Everything we've been told.
What?
Well, it's all lies.
Ayaka looks at Jin with surprise.
They are well-fed and well-armed. They live lives of privilege and freedom.
No. That can't be true. They're poor, they're starving. Our dear leader says so.
Jin grabs Ayaka.
Ayaka, snap out of it.
Ayaka stares deep into Jin's eyes.
We are starving. We're close to death. We're miserable. You know we are.
We are privileged compared to the South and every other country in the world. You must appreciate our dear leader's sacrifice.
Sacrifice? What sacrifice? He eats steak. He drinks the most luxurious red wine, whilst we have to eat grass. We have no medicine. We have to live in a shitty, burnt house without a front door. Our house is crawling with rats. And I'm so hungry. Can you not see that we are living in poverty?
No, I don't believe you.
It's true.
There is a silence.
My love, I have seen everything. Val was right. It's all lies.
Ayaka begins shaking her head. She puts her hands on her ears.
It's not lies. Our dear leader is a god. He is special. He gives us everything.
No, you have to believe me. Please, Ayaka.
It's lies. It's not lies. We are privileged.
Stop it. We need to go to the south.
We can't. Stop it. Stop it. You're being a traitor. You're upsetting Emmy.
Jin looks toward the teddy bear.
Ayaka, Emmy is dead.
What?
Jin looks defeated. He holds in tears.
She's dead.
No, she isn't. Why would you even joke about that? She's right here.
Ayaka gestures toward the teddy bear.
She died in a fire.
No, she isn't dead.
She's dead. She was burned alive. I saw it all. You were there, remember? I broke curfew trying to rescue her. You were not punished because you rescued the portrait, remember?
You're a liar.
How am I lying? That is a teddy bear, not our daughter.
Ayaka stares at Jin with astonishment.
Do you really think that our dear leader would let our daughter die?
What?
Our dear leader would not let our daughter die in a fire. That would be cruel of him. And our dear leader is never cruel. He's only kind.
Our leader is a bastard.
He's not a bastard!
Ayaka slaps Jin in the face.
He is a god.
He is not a god. He's the devil.
Ayaka begins crying.
No, he isn't.
He is, and the North is hell. We need to get out of here now.
Stop! He can hear you!
He can't hear us. He has brainwashed all of us. He's made us believe that he is some sort of god when he is a weak, pathetic, selfish man who abuses his power. Can you not fucking see that?
He can hear you! You're a traitor!
Ayaka limps out of the kitchen. She drops the teddy bear to the floor. Jin stays in the living room. He looks up at the portrait of his president. Ayaka limps back into the living room, carrying the knife in her right hand.
Traitor.
Ayaka attempts to stab Jin. Jin dodges.
What the fuck are you doing?
You do not deserve to live! You traitor!
Ayaka swings for Jin with the knife. He ducks, causing her to accidentally cut the portrait of the president.
No. No. You made me do this!
Ayaka switched the knife into her left hand.
You made me hurt our dear leader!
Ayaka swings the large knife in her right hand, amputating it immediately. Jin falls to the floor in shock as blood squirts over him and the floor. She points the knife towards Jin.
I will kill you, traitor.
Ayaka jumps on top of Jin, carrying a knife in her left hand. Whilst blood pours from her amputated wrist, she begins trying to stab Jin. He grabs her wrist. There's a struggle, but after some time, Jin manages to succeed in curling her wrist. She diverts the knife into Ayaka's throat. Blood pours from her throat onto Jin. She falls on top of Jin and dies. Jin pushes Ayaka's dead body off of him. Her dead body lays beside him. Jin sits up against the burnt living room wall. He begins hyperventilating. He removes his officer's uniform as it's covered in mud, blood, and vomit. He's now wearing a grubby, loose-button shirt. He looks up at the portrait of the president with fury. He grabs the butcher's knife and approaches the portrait.
You did this, you bastard.
Jin swipes at the president portrait, cutting a hole in the paper. He continues to swipe at the portrait. He drops the knife and begins to tear the portrait with his hands. He tears the left eye of the portrait, which reveals a very small button-sized camera. Jin's eyes wide. He falls to the floor. He quickly runs out of the living room and runs upstairs towards the bedroom. Interior, Sin Zhao Hospital, recovery ward, evening. Jin wakes up in the recovery ward of a hospital. It is empty and clean. Jin immediately leaps up. He inspects his left hand, which is covered in bandages. He has a nasogastric tube. He begins inspecting the tube. A nurse approaches him.
You need to rest. You are very ill.
Where am I?
In the recovery ward, your hand was cut deeply.
What hospital?
The Zhenzhou Hospital?
Am I in South Baixin?
Yes, of course you are.
Jen appears relieved.
Why do you ask?
No reason.
The nurse notices Jen's eyes.
Your eyes are much better.
What?
They were very yellow. You had jaundice and severe jaundice. Your bile duct was obstructed by gallstones and they were surgically removed.
Jen looks around the recovery ward with confusion.
We thought the cancer may have spread to your liver, but your liver is in a stable condition.
I have cancer?
Yes, unfortunately you do.
What cancer?
On stage 2 lung cancer, you may only have 5 years to live.
Jen sinks back into his hospital bed. He begins coughing.
That police are here to ask you some questions.
The nurse leaves. A police investigator walks into the recovery ward. Hello, sir? Jen does not answer. The police investigator takes a seat next to Jen's hospital bed. Now, I'm sure you have many questions, but I'd just like to assure you that you are safe.
Safe?
We could not find any DNA records of yours, but we know you are from the North. We know you are a refugee.
I'm not a refugee. I'm a defector.
Excuse me?
I'm a defector. The North does not let its people leave willingly.
Either way, you are safe. You will not have to worry about returning there.
So I have freedom?
Yes, you are free. Jen smiles. He breathes a deep sigh of relief.
I'm hungry, but not as hungry as before.
That is because of your feeding tube.
My what?
The feeding tube through your nose has kept you fed for the past couple of days, but they had to limit the amount they could feed you.
Why?
Because you have been starving for a long time. And if you were to eat much food, well, you could die, put it simply. Jen continues to inspect the tube. I'd like to ask you some questions. Jen turns toward the investigator. What is your name?
My name is Jin. Jin Sung.
Hello, Jen. Did you have any family in the North before you escaped?
No. My mother and father passed away years ago. I was a single man with no children.
Okay. When the police arrested you, you were armed with a knife, covered in human blood. Could you please explain what happened?
Two men broke into my house. They tried to rob me of food I did not have. One of them was armed with that knife. I managed to disarm them. I just stabbed one of them in the scuffle. They both escaped. But I know that the one I stabbed will have died and I would have been punished severely. That's why I ran away, because I would have been punished for something which was not my fault.
I'm very sorry that happened to you. It seems with the ongoing food shortages in the North has led to these sort of incidents.
How do you know?
That's what many of the Northern defectors have to say.
You mean I'm not the only one?
No, of course not. There are at least 1,000 defectors in the South alone. Many of them have traveled elsewhere, most of them to the USA.
The what?
The United States of America.
Oh. Do they have freedom in the United States of America?
For now. The investigator smiles. So, another question here, Jen. Where did you live in Fachim? Did you live in a city, a town, or maybe a village?
Why do you ask?
These are the questions which the re-education facility has written down for you.
Re-education?
It's not like the camp is in the north, my friend. These are not places of punishment. Again, the purpose of these re-education facilities is to prepare you to adjust to life in the South. Jen stays silent. Over the next couple of months, you may experience what's called a culture shock. There are certain privileges in the South which you may have never experienced. The differences in technology and day-to-day life may be overwhelming for you. Therefore, when you need to attend the education facilities to prepare for what's to come. Jin nods his head. He appears calm.
I lived in a small village. I was a border patrol officer. That's all there is to know about me.
Okay. I shall pass this information on to the facility. Thank you for answering these questions, Jin. I believe you are entitled to a few more days of rest here before moving into your new house.
New housing?
Yes. Defectors are given free housing for a time. They are then re-educated and equipped with a suitable job. When they come, where they can pay off their mortgage or the house over a period of time. That is all, my friend. I shall take my leave. Somebody from the government should be in touch with you soon. Best of luck, Jen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure. The investigator leaves. Jen sinks into his hospital bed and falls asleep. Interior, Zenzao Hospital, recovery ward, morning. Jin wakes up in the hospital. Sitting next to him is Jiang Jin. Jin looks at Jiang with surprise.
Freedom Man.
My name is Young.
Kyung, you saved me.
I didn't save you, my friend.
You did. I was very close to starving, but you gave me food. You're a hero.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
How did you find me?
You made it onto the news. Somebody filmed you being arrested and published it. Here, I'll show you.
Jiang takes out his phone. Jin stares at the phone with intrigue. Jiang shows a news article to Jin. It reads, North Faching refugee arrested in Zenzhou. This annoys Jin.
You're calling me a refugee. I'm not a refugee, I'm a defector.
The article says you were taken to a hospital for your injuries. That's how I found you.
What's that device?
Jiang presents the phone to Jin.
It's a mobile phone.
Oh, so you can call your friends and family with this? We have phones, but they do not have screens.
Yes, but what you have is just a regular telephone. This is a new technology. Well, kind of new anyway. This can do pretty much anything. You can play music, watch videos, message and call your friends. You can even ask your phone any question you would like. Here, watch this. Ask a question when I put my thumb up.
Jiang holds his phone to his mouth.
Hey, Siri?
Siri activates on Jiang's phone. Jiang holds his thumb up in the air.
Can you show me a picture of the map of the world?
Jiang's phone researches images of the world map.
Here are some pictures of the map of the world from the web. Take a look.
Jiang selects a specific image showing the entire world map, including North and South Faching. He hands over his phone to Jin, who stares deeply at the photo.
We were never told how big the world was. We were isolated. and we were told that other countries were less fortunate than us. We were told that the South was the worst of all countries, but I knew that nothing could be worse than the North. So I took my chance. I made a daring escape. I hid in many bushes to avoid the officers from the North and the South. And when I jumped out of one of those bushes, I saw that big tower with its bright lights, and I knew that was everything I'd ever been told was a lie.
You saw the Freedom Tower?
Yes, and it set me free.
But the Freedom Tower is 600 meters tall. I thought you would have been able to see its bright lights from anywhere.
There was a national curfew in the evening. I never understood the meaning of this curfew, but now I know that it was to stop us from seeing the lights of the South, to stop us from seeing freedom. When the national curfew first started, the authorities would patrol our small village to make sure nobody left the house. After a while, the authorities left. It was because they trusted us. They knew that if somebody was to break curfew, that person would be snitched down by their neighbors. That was the scariest thing about living in the North. Neighbors who should be on your side, who should see through the lies of the regime. They were willing to betray you, to stab you in the back for their dear leader's admiration. Your biggest enemies were not the police, not the government, not even your supposedly supreme leader, but it was your friends and family, for they were indoctrinated into betraying you for what they believed was for the greater good. That was the scariest part of living in the North.
It's a good reason to leave. I've heard stories about the North. It's crazy that something like this could happen in the 21st century. Were you raised to believe in God?
As a child, I heard rumors about God and the teachings of Christianity, but to us, they were just rumors. This is because our God was our president and we were made to worship only him. Religion was almost unheard of, but I know more than the average person, and I know that those who do express their knowledge about the teachings of Christianity or any other religion are strictly punished. For that is considered treason to the only man we should have worshipped, our supposed God of a president, President Xuan Vin.
I ask because that might be why all of the atrocities committed by the North against its own people is allowed to happen and go unpunished. Because the men and women of the North have forgotten their religious values, their forgiveness and virtue. They've forgotten God. That's why all this is happening.
No, that's not true. If there is a God, none of this would ever happen to begin with. There would be no bastard dictator or president. There would be no starvation, no violence, and no death or disease. I wouldn't be here now, Kyung. I have lung cancer. I've been told that I can expect to live another 5 years, but that's all.
Jiang nearly sheds tears. He keeps his composure. Jin places a hand on Jiang's shoulder.
But 5 years in freedom is worth more than a lifetime under a dictatorship. I'm free, and I do not have some God to thank for it. I have you. You're a hero. Thank you.
Do not thank me, Jin. It was you who escaped. It took courage for you to leave. And the truth is, there may have been a reason why you were successful in escaping. Maybe God kept you alive for a reason, to put you on a mission, to bring the atrocities of the world, of the North, to the attention of the world. That's something to think about, Jin. Now, unfortunately, I have to go to work, but I'll give you my phone number.
Jiang writes his phone number on a piece of paper. He gives a piece of paper to Jin.
Goodbye, my friend. I shall give you a call soon.
Please do. Hopefully I see you soon.
Jiang and Jin embrace. Jiang leaves the recovery ward. Exterior, Zhenzhou Education Center. Car, morning, driving. Jiang parks just outside of the re-education center. In the passenger seat sits Jin. Interior, car, morning, stationary. Jin appears healthier. His skin and hair are cleaner. His clothes are presentable.
Here you are, my friend.
Jin looks at the education facility.
Are you nervous?
Yes, very nervous.
Why's that?
I am fully aware that my leader was a bastard, but the things which I have gone through, there are things which I can't even mention, not even to you. They may have scarred me too deeply. I fear that I may not adjust to life so easily.
You have to take it one step at a time. Over time, you will become accustomed to life in the South.
Jin appears nervous.
I think I need fresh air.
I'll come with you.
Jiang and Jin both leave the car. They stand outside the gates of the education facility. Exterior, Zhenzhou Education Center. Morning, continuous. Jin looks at the facility through the gates. He sees several staff members dressed in smart clothing. The facility seems peaceful.
How's your daughter?
I didn't have a daughter. I had a son.
Oh, but you said...
My girlfriend, Yumi, she believed we were having a girl. She claimed she could sense it. She was wrong. And now I have a beautiful baby boy.
What's his name?
Jay. I have a picture of him. Here, I'll show you.
Jiang takes out his mobile phone. He shows a picture of his newborn son, Jay, to Jin. Jin smiles.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How much longer until I have to go in?
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. I mean, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
What is it?
Was there ever a point where you could not see through the lies of the Northern regime?
Yes. We were educated to believe in their lies. But sometimes, depending on my financial situation or how hungry I was, I would fall out of love with our leader. But then my feelings would change and I would fall in love with him again. I occasionally believed he was some sort of god. I suppose when you were stuck with the bastard dictator for a president, you only can force yourself to love him or be forced to love him. Well, what do you do when you have a bastard dictator for a president?
We vote them out.
Oh.
Jin musters a slight laugh.
That was not possible in the North. We were not even allowed to criticize our dear leader, no matter how dire our circumstances. We would get in trouble, mainly because our neighbors or family members would snitch on us. So our circumstances would never improve because people could not speak up against the continuous failings of our government. Words and ideas that should be debated in public are not even whispered in private.
Jin stares at the ground ashamed.
I have something to tell you.
What's that?
My grandfather is a Northern defector. I'd like you to meet him.
I would appreciate that very much, my friend.
I have one more question, Jin.
Go ahead.
How many citizens from the North do you think follow President Ron Vin out of fear, compared to how many follow him willingly because of love? Is it 50% each, or is it, say, 10% follow him because of fear and 90% follow him because they want to. What's the percentage? Do you know?
I don't know. I'll never know. Hopefully the regime is crushed and the people of North Faichin obtain their freedom.
Okay.
Jiang looks at his watch.
It's been 2 minutes, Jin. You have to go in now. I'll pick you up when you finish.
Thank you, my friend.
Jian and Jim embrace. Jin opens the gate to the re-education center. He walks into the front doors of the building. The doors shut behind him. Fade to white.
Okay, I feel like we should get started on the workshop. So the next 30 minutes, you guys have the option to provide feedback and comments for the writer. I'm first going to open up this workshop for the audience. If you guys have any questions you want to ask before I start asking questions myself.
I had one. What kind of experience have you had with defectors and refugees?
Hello. Well, I haven't actually had a personal experience with refugees or defectors. However, I did read Yeonmi Park's book In Order to Live. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that something like the state of North Korea can actually exist, which is why I actually started writing this in the first place. My intention is to raise awareness against the atrocities committed by North Korea. And I hope that if this was made into a film, it could inspire some sort of change. Because from Yeonmi Park's book, the reason why she said she became awakened and was released from the sort of indoctrination was because she watched the film Titanic. This is obviously very, very different to Titanic. I think it's a bit more obvious in its intention. So I do hope it can, if it was made into a film, it can inspire some sort of change. Although I think something like this would probably be banned in the North for obvious reasons. But if I was just to be able to change one person's mind, I'd say that I'd consider the film to be a success, because I'd say that one human life is probably worth everything. So that's the reason why I wrote this. But from my own personal experience, it'll just be research I carried out.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I'm gonna add on to that. I was a little curious as to why you chose not to just explicitly say North Korea, just because like everyone kind of alludes to everything in it already alludes to the country. I feel like it's not really like a secret. And also just because like, the US was mentioned, so clearly like this is already set in like the real world, I guess. So yeah, I guess I wanted to know more about your choice to make it a fictional place, because I feel like it just doesn't really make sense if the rest of the world is already in the current world, like the current present world, and that it's like not a secret that we're talking about like North Korea, basically.
I know that there was actually a film made about North Korea and it actually got banned. I know it's more of a comedy, but that is something I'm worried about. It's something, yeah, I am worried about being censored. So if I was to write it from a fictional point of view, I'd say there's less of a chance of being censored, but I think it is still obvious in its intention. So, yeah.
So also like are all like the names to also, I know some of them are not Korean. Are you like just trying to like allude to it just by doing like Korean names, or just like throwing in kind of like, random Eastern?
And I'd say random. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like there would be more consistency if like, I understand why you'd want to like not mention North Korea. I feel like the names of the characters then really matters for you to allude to all be like Korean, because then it would make sense as to like what we're talking about, and then like there can be like no like allusion to North Korea in that way. It's just like a little like hint at it because obviously all the names are Korean. Um,
Mm.
but it makes a lot of sense why you wouldn't want to directly mention it because I'm sure a lot of people really like to censor like people like to censor things, especially in around that area. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that's something to take note of. Um, and I guess I want to learn a little bit more about Ayaka. Is that her name? Like what was your inspiration for her and like what I guess what were you trying to get out of her?
So she was supposed to show the dark sides of indoctrination and brainwashing. However, I could see from the actual script reading, that I definitely need to rewrite the character. Um, she's a bit too stiff, she's a bit too unemotional, and the only sort of emotion she feels is just anger. So I think I definitely need to rewrite her because stiff dialogue and just plain indoctrination doesn't really make for entertaining cinema. So the whole inspiration, it was just to show the effects of brainwashing and indoctrination. But I think that does need to change. I think there needs to be more emotion in Ayaka particularly, but a lot of the characters as well.
Yeah, I really liked the way Ayaka was portrayed. I guess I was just more maybe it was just the way it was delivered, but when I also read it too, I kind of infantilized Ayaka. I feel like the dialogue wasn't that stiff. It was more that she just came off as very childlike. And I feel like in that sense, it makes it a little like, you know, stereotypical in a way because, you know, it's this idea that Asian women are really childlike and like really submissive and stuff like that. I feel like there needs to be more development with Ayaka. Um, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, obviously other people probably read it differently, but I also read when I read your script, I also read Ayaka in kind of like a kid's voice almost. She was very like too excited about um the regime. And rather
Mm.
than being like, oh, I like just, you know, like if you're actually like brainwashed, I feel like it would be, you know, a little more like just you wouldn't be so excited. You would just kind of like say it. It's like a fact, right? I don't know. She
Mm.
just seems way too overly excited, basically, for
Yeah.
someone to be legitimately brainwashed. I know I've been talking for a little bit, so does anyone else have any questions, comments?
Yeah. I'll add to the not making this about North Korea thing, but everything else is pretty Korean to include constantly referring to the South and the North. Um, Either one, you make it totally about North Korea, or my recommendation, anyways, either totally make it about North Korea or totally abstract it out. Make it not Korean, make it not even Asian, East Asian. Um, Flip North and South or go East West. I mean, the audience is smart enough to know, like, oh, you say you drop one great leader, that's all you need. We know it's about Korea if you drop one great leader. Everything else is like, or maybe you can change that as well. Great something else. The God Emperor, if you're into that D&D thing or whatever, right? The God King. Totally abstract it. Uh, that may be like more artistically interesting. So that's one. Um, I think my hypothesis of why you struggle with this is that uh, the, there's a journey of Jin, the main character, right? Did I hear that properly? There's a journey, and I don't really the dialogue. What I don't really feel that he's earned any of this change. He has cancer. He told, "Hey, you should watch this film. It'll change your mind." Next thing we know, he changed his mind. Like, where did that come from? What was his angst through it? And then we move quickly to, well, okay, he changed his mind. He got into a fight with his partner. There's a, and then we end up in the South already. We already defected. And so like the big, the stories we're telling were cut out. How did he change? How did he defect? His learning about these new things. Um, I think you can cut out a lot of dialogue if you turn from that exposition into like showing. You have cancer. Well, yeah, he knows
Yeah.
he has something, right? He might not even know what cancer is. He might not even know what the word privilege is. I mean, when you're like in that information bubble, there's a lot of concepts you don't understand. Not knowing what I'm asking for a map, for example. If I were to help better explain this, like a lot of these characters speak as if they grew up in the West.
Yeah.
So it's a big shift to like, all right, to ask yourself, what would they actually know? They would know about a map. They would know like, oh, USA's great enemy though. That's I think that's pretty clear. But they wouldn't know the map, and there I could have swore I saw something sneak out of North Korea where their map put the peninsula like really large and everything else is really small. So yeah, they would know what to ask for a map. If you wanted to more specifically now, if you wanted to get show a map, maybe you can have Jin ask, "Where am I?" And then whoever is talking to him can show him like, "You're here. You were over there," and he wouldn't understand what the hell this is. Like, this is not a map.
Yeah, what I got from that was I think I needed to do more research and not write from my own point of view. That's the sort of thing I got from that. So, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate your openness hearing that. Really, I wouldn't feel good hearing that.
That was a really great comment, Tony. I actually wanted to hop on that a little bit. So I also kind of agree where it's a little confusing as to where like Jin got all this information. Like how does he the one that's like not being brainwashed if it's not kind of like he clearly has some access or like open point to the outside world if he's one of the people who like, is kind of rebelling and stuff. So I guess like maybe like portraying like how he gets those information would really help kind of solidify why Jin kind of stands out from the rest. But yeah, but definitely doing something about definitely convey something about how Jin got information from the outside world and how he like can navigate it better, but also in some ways he also doesn't. So you need to like kind of play with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Something that may help you is that like I think the core conflict is he has a way of thinking. He sees something that really challenges it. Conflict, right? Yeah. And then later on, the actual facts of like how the North is different from the South is kind of like I think that could probably be deprioritized, and things would fall in place if the focus was on his revelation and his change and his coming to terms with like, well, I'm starting to believe something that Ayaka doesn't believe. There's another conflict, internal conflict, and then conflict with her as well. And I think that is the heart of the story.
Yeah, I also think it would be really interesting to see like more conflict with Ayaka. I feel like, maybe she should start to kind of realize that she's being brainwashed and whatnot. I feel like that would be really nice to see some character development there.
Yeah.
Just so that way it's not just Jin and his journey, but it's more of like a collective journey. So I definitely.
Yeah, that's what I sort of got from actually watching the YouTube video. I sort of got the impression that Ayaka backs down too much. There definitely needs to be more conflict there. I also thought that the most climatic scene in it when Ayaka obviously starts trying to stab Jin, I think it goes from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. I think there needs to be a few more attempts to sort of convince Ayaka that she is being brainwashed, and then that's what actually leads her to get to 100. It goes 0 to 100 very, very quickly. Um, Obviously, there is a lot of things. Obviously, this was only part of the script. This was just the excerpt. Um, there were a lot of things in the other parts of the script, which I think I could introduce into that scene. There is one part where he does find a propaganda poster in the mud, and I think that could be maybe something which Jin actually shows during the most climatic scene, which sort of makes it go from 0 to 100 very quickly. It just felt like that scene, it just felt too rushed. And not only that, but I think, especially in the food delivery scene, I think there's oh, what was that? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. She needs to fight back, because having her completely indoctrinated, it doesn't seem very entertaining. And the parts of the script reading which I enjoyed the most happen to be where there happen to be more monologues and more emotion. So I'd say if I portrayed Ayaka with a wider range of emotion, I'd say that'd be more entertaining. So that's sort of what I got from this script reading. Because I placed a lot of character development into Jin. Obviously, there is a lot which you guys didn't see, but I still think that what you guys have said is still applies 100%. So,
this will probably shake out as you flesh her out. Is if Jin's progression is a little more metered out as he processes his shift in worldview, she could express concern initially for his safety, because if he starts thinking like this, then he is a danger to himself. And because she loves him, that could be one emotion. Then it shifts to like, oh, I can't save you. You've gone too far, Jin. Now it turns to rage. That logically makes sense to me. If someone you dearly love started expressing very different worldview, what would you do initially? Given in this situation, right? You'll try to talk him out of it, and then you're like, oh no, this is very dangerous for you to say. Don't say anymore. You can still maybe think about it. Depends on if you're avoidant or not. Like you can still think about these things, but don't talk about it because our neighbors can hear. Things like that. And finally, like, oh, I can't save you now. You're on. Or I can't save you now. I'm angry. I want to attack you, or I'll abandon you, or whatever. But I think because the default relationships that they love each other, they think the same. Your partner's thinking very differently now. Okay, what do I do about it?
I think you touched on some stuff at the end about whether or not they believed it the entire time, right? And I guess my big thing when I was looking at it is, what is the difference between Jin and Jiyoung, right? I mean, fundamentally at the core of as a human being, are they any different? Right? Do we not know when something is wrong? Are people that far? I mean, to me, that explained, because it's like I was also trying to fill in a bunch of gaps, obviously, because it was just excerpt.
Yeah.
But of, how did he get there? How did we get to and so in my mind, I'm still trying to put that together. And so for me, it's like making them, they're the same person. That things are wrong. That you see it in the writing and in his discussion of this, of pulling away the fantasy, right? That's the brainwashing, right? It's like kind of matrixy, right? It's like there's this whole wool over your eyes, the whole world that's around you. You're brainwashed into this, but there's something wrong. Everybody, that's what makes her mad. It's like, what makes you mad is when you're wrong and you want to be right. That's what makes you want to kill something. That's what makes you want to destroy something, to me, right? And that's my 2 cents on at least why characters for me are doing stuff, because that's the biggest question whenever I'm reading something or watching something. It's like, why? Why did they do that? Because if you answer the why, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter when, that none of that matters, because we are all, all the same. So even though we're looking at this as a, we're looking at it as North Korea or whatever, abstracting it out, but is it really about that? I mean, it's about subjugation. It's about, that happens everywhere. That happens across the street. That happens at my neighbor's house. Not really, but what I'm saying, it happens. People are feel trapped. So it's a bigger story. And if you want to raise awareness of that story, it almost has to not be about North Korea, right? Because it's like, what do we know about that? That's foreign to the audience, right? It's like, I don't know what that is, but you know what I do know? What it feels like to have a partner who I loved, who's now a Trump supporter for some reason, or now a Biden supporter, whatever it is, because it's like we're so divided. I think you have much larger, story here than just North Korea. This is a human story, right? To me, right? So there's my 2 cents. I listened for a little while, and I talk a bunch. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, I think what you're trying to say is more needs to be explored. It isn't just the whole side of North and South Korea. I think you're saying about a lot more needs to be explored. What I got from that is especially the relationship between characters. I think that's something which there needs to be emphasis on, and I think it needs to be something which relates to the audience itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think my suggestion based off I totally agree, Jason, is that when you turn back and write this, I understand that you want to tell a big message, a big picture. And I think one of the most effective ways to tell a big message is to focus on just the characters and their journey, and the audience will figure out the message. Really focus on the characters, and have the political message just be really secondary.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Yeah, so I definitely need to make the characters more interesting in order for them to stand out. As I said, from listening to the actual script reading, I could tell that the dialogue was stiffening. It was too unemotional. And if you don't have decent characters, then the audience aren't going to remember the message. So is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. If you focus on their journey and the reasons why they say things and how they feel, like flesh out a character study of like, all right, where did this person come from? How they meet? What are their core beliefs? And then the dialogue will come out, and it would be more. It'll sound more authentic. Like, what did I write? That was a good example. No, I think that's. I don't have a great example. Jason's analogy with the Matrix was great. Both sides think they're brainwashed, so you're gonna fight passionately for what you believe in.
And in the end, nobody's right, really. It's all the same. It's the physical environment that we can control here, right? That's it. It's like what's inside of our heads. We can change that. In fact, hopefully that's what we're trying to do with film, right? Is we're trying to change the inside of people's heads. It's like the physical environment that's the entertainment part, right? It's like, oh, it's an interesting thing. It's a conflict. It's war. It's, a modern parable. And to me, as half Korean, it's like, I'd like you to make it about Korea, right? You know how I tried to do a parody, a comedy when The Interview came out. And trying to get Koreans involved in anything that has to do with Korea is impossible, especially a comedy about North Korea. It's like, forget about it. But try to get a South Korean to play a North Korean. It's like, there's just, yeah, anything that I can do, honestly, to bring more awareness to the peninsula itself, because um, hey, we're still at war, guys. It's like one of the longest wars the United States have ever been. It's like everyone, oh, the Korean War, it's not over. We're still there 62 years later.
So
I've been to North Korea. There's a gift shop across the DMZ. It's a gift shop across the DMZ.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Got to keep up appearances.
Yeah. I got jade soju cups. I'm like, okay, support of their regime, buying their.
Well, Billy, what most interested you about telling this story? Because it's like, again, this is a pretty generic story. I mean, the struggle around the world. Why this one?
Well, I think it's the worst place to live in the entire world, and I think I don't think there's enough awareness about it. If you asked 99% of the population to point out North Korea on a map, they wouldn't be able to. There's not enough awareness about it. It's ridiculous that obviously I said that something like this could actually happen, but it is. And nobody has really written a film about this before. They've written comedies, but nothing as sort of severe as this. So I'm hoping that this could be some sort of change. So there's a couple of things I'd like to say. Obviously, I wanted to write it from a fictional point of view. What I'm sort of getting is that everybody wants me to make it predominantly about North Korea. Is that what everyone's trying to say?
Not necessarily. It either do or don't, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all the way in or all the way out. Make it a parable fantasy land, or actually make it about Korea. One of the,
if your film gets banned, then all the better.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with everyone else. I feel like it's either you just straight up talk about North Korea, or at least like allude to everything about it, or just make it completely different, like abstract. I feel like that would just make more sense, just because I feel like the combination of like different cultures could come off kind of, it could be kind of controversial to some people, just because it's like you're kind of meshing just like all these different cultures in that area, like East Asia, just because you don't want to explicitly say that it's like North Korea, South Korea. But I understand the intent behind it, but that's definitely something to consider when writing the script, because it could come off offensive if not done right. That like all these cultures are kind of just like mixed in together as this one general, like generic Fijian or North Fijian and South Fijian culture. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely something to have a think about. I'll come to that decision another time, I think. I'm sort of leaning towards all. So write it entirely based on North Korea. No fictional countries or anything like that. Obviously, the plot and the characters, their journey will stay the same. But I think different location, obviously, actually make the location, the actual place, and that sort of thing. That's what I'm more leaning towards from what everyone said. And the point about it being censored, all the better. I think that's a very, very good point. So I think it just proves, I think it just proves my point perfectly as to why I want to write this anyway. So
yeah, I also think you're like keeping the journeys of everyone the same is great. I definitely just think I know I already said this before, but like I really think Ayako could be like a really great supporting character for Jin. So I really feel like just like having her character development and having her struggles depicted in relation to Jin and in relation to North Fight Sheen, would just make the story like a little more, I guess, I don't want to say complex, but like, it'll make it more compelling.
Yeah. So as I could tell from the script reading, and now that I think about looking at the actual script altogether, I think I placed too much emphasis on character development only on Jin. Whereas I think not enough has gone into Gion and Ayaka. Obviously, Yumi wasn't actually mentioned in the excerpt. So that is something to think about. I think I need to think of more character development in between all four of the main characters. So that is something I'm getting from this. And obviously, when you focus on character development and character backgrounds, scene objectives is something I think I need to focus on as well, and motivations. I think that will start to show in the dialogue, which is obviously what the reviews were saying. It was plot and concept sort of 9 out of 10, but dialogue and characters 6 out of 10. So that's what I'm sort of getting. I think I need to place more development into all characters instead of just one. Yeah.
Something that.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, we're running out of time, but anyone have any last thoughts? Clearly, Tony, you have some last thoughts, so I guess I'll let you.
Yeah, it was the last thought now. As you look back at this, it may. I was thinking like if I were to do this, I would like not like lop off the part after he escapes, he defects, and just focus on what he does in North Korea, and the end scene will be him abandoning his life and going into the unknown of defecting. Because that way the entire movie could be just about this is what it's like North Korea, because the Western audience would know what it's like in the West. We don't need to be told what it's like in the West, and so we just compared our lived-in experience with how these characters of North Korea live. And so that is the message that they can save you. One, it'll make it easier to make. Maybe you don't have to film an escape scene. But yeah, I think that could be tighter. That could be a way to tighten the whole script.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think you have all the elements are all there. I just don't think that maybe that they're played out in the right order. Again, they've lost a baby. She's obviously, it's like you're mentally distraught on top of being brainwashed, on top of all these kinds of things. If we would introduce that before, if we had that before, that might explain her childlike behavior better. So I'm just saying, don't abandon what you have and rewrite particularly, but use what's already there, because I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it can just be introduced in a different way.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of material to work with. So I really definitely think that this story could really become something. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Sorry again for this morning. I was a little scatterbrained. For some reason, 2 links were sent out, but it was this one that was actually the right one. So I was just on a different Zoom, and yeah. So thank you for being patient with me. And if you guys have any more comments for Billy, you guys can email them to me, and I can just forward it to him. But yeah, if anyone also wants to participate in a workshop, just submit your script to me at Andy at film-lab.org. So thank you guys.